Good evening, Cherries fans, and welcome to this latest show here on Up the Cherries in all departments. Now, before I welcome on my special guest, here's a bit about our sponsors, Dental on the Banks. To find out what they can do for you, visit dentalonthebanks.co.uk. So, the World Cup's over, and we're back to the domestic season. Could say it's Premier League game, but it isn't. Of course, it is the Carabao Cup, the next round. Of course, we got through against Everton quite convincingly in the end, to be fair. And we now face the visit, and the second time this season, up to Eddie Howe's Newcastle. Now, to discuss this game, it is a pleasure to welcome onto the show for its black and white TV, Tony. Good evening, Tony. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, Craig. How are you, mate?
Yeah, all good, all good. Did you enjoy the World Cup? Well, apart from, of course, that France game.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. There were some nice shocks in there, but to be honest with you, I just want to get back to proper football, and that's what we're back to now. Thank God normal service is resumed.
Yeah, definitely. And, I'm looking forward to... And it's a bit of a strange one that we're coming back to a cup game rather than Premier League. But actually, it's quite a nice little break that I guess it will give the teams a chance to play around with things, as well as if you've got any players that are coming back from the World Cup who might just need that little bit of extra time before you play Leicester. So let's look at the grand scheme of things, and of course Eddie Howe, former Bournemouth manager, legend at the club. But did he really like a cup run? He didn't, to be honest, in the FA Cup. But we did well in this competition. But would you say that, considering your position in the table as well, his focus is probably going to be on that Leicester game, isn't it?
It will be, but he'll also want to win the cup game tomorrow. He wants to get us. He wants to win a trophy. He's desperate to win us a trophy, and if we can win tomorrow, that gets us into the quarterfinals. And then once you get past the quarterfinals, you've got a two-legged semi-final. So, and another big team's going to go out the cup this week. Liverpool and City play, so one of them two is going to go out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you see, he doesn't really like a cup run, but then and this is not no disrespect to Bournemouth, but with them having a smaller squad, maybe he didn't want a cup run because he wanted to concentrate on keeping Bournemouth in the Premier League year in, year out. Because he did do a fantastic job at Bournemouth. He's doing a great job at Newcastle, by the way. I think a lot of clubs are now looking and thinking, wow, we should have got Eddie Howe as manager. The likes of... You have journalists like Martin Samuels coming out and saying, oh, well, Newcastle's took Eddie Howe, but they could have had Steven Gerrard and have missed out there. Well, no, we haven't missed out, because where's Gerrard? He's in the door queue, isn't he? So
yeah,
we haven't missed out on Steven Gerrard, and he's waved bye-bye to Dean Smith as well, because he's gone down to the Championship. So it was a huge turnaround what he's done for the club, and it's the way. So it's him and his coaching staff, and especially Jason Tyndall as well. I mean, they've got such a great relationship on the touchline together. But it's the way he does the training. It's intense, but it gets results as well. And fair play to him. Once he left Bournemouth, he went and done his homework, went abroad, saw Sarri and Simeone, then went and stood with Klopp in the training grounds, and even went round to see CEOs and owners and asked them what they wanted from managers, And so fair play to the guy. He's actually went out of his way to do something and to try and make himself an even better manager than he was at Bournemouth. So, yeah, fair play. But we've got a few players back. I mean, we had a friendly at the weekend against Rayo Vallecano, and believe it or not, Nick Pope and Kieran Trippier played in that game. Trippier played 83 minutes and Pope played the whole game because apparently they wanted to play. So we'll have Bruno back. We've got Shaw back. We've got Wilson back as well. Wilson's fully fit as well, so he's not injured like some reports were saying. So yeah, it'll be an interesting team who we put out tomorrow. But like Eddie Howe says, he doesn't want tomorrow's game as like a stepping stone to the Premier League coming back. He wants to be competitive. He wants to win tomorrow's game, and he wants us to go in the next round of the Carabao Cup.
I'm quite envious when I've had your good friend John Sinclair on before. I'm envious of Newcastle because Eddie Howe is an absolute legend. You don't need me to tell you the story of -17 getting us to the Premier League. The work he did, went to Burnley, come back. One thing I would say though, is there any fear from Newcastle fans' perspectives that he may eventually get snapped up by a big club? Newcastle's a big club, but or even onto the international stage, because that was being mooted at one point.
Yeah, he was asked about that in a press conference back in September when Southgate was under a bit of pressure. And he said, look, no disrespect, Gareth Southgate's in the job at the moment. He says, plus, I don't want the England job. He says, at the minute, because I like the day-to-day running of a club where I come in every day and train. He says, with England, it's once every 6 months or whatever it is. So he says, England doesn't interest me. So he says, if England come knocking, he says, they can carry on knocking, but they won't get an answer because I won't be going there. He says, I'm here to do a job. He says, I'm here to win trophies. I want to win things at Newcastle first. He says, and that's what I want to do. And that's me aim at the moment. So, and I always knew he wouldn't go to England anyway, even if Southgate had left. I know some fans were getting a bit suspicious. Like, if Southgate goes, will they come and snap Howe? And I said, look, don't worry about it. Howe's going nowhere. And even if a bigger club come in, I don't think he would go. I think we would have because we've just given him a new contract in the summer as well, just before the season started. So when he originally came in, he had like a 2.5-year deal.
Yeah.
But obviously we've given him a new, improved, longer-term contract. And I mean, you've got players who are top players like Bruno, and he actually loves Eddie Howe. He says Eddie Howe's a great manager, and he says, to be fair, when I came to the club, I didn't even know who Eddie Howe was. Not many players would know who Eddie Howe is, but now they do. And I think with Eddie Howe as well, he's getting that little bit of swagger about him now. He's got that hint of a Jose Mourinho inside of him, because when journalists ask him thing, he's a bit like, he deflects the questions very well, like how Mourinho would do it as well. So, yeah, I mean, he's a talented manager. I always thought he was a good manager when he was at Bournemouth for the job he did. I think that season he just went down. It was unfortunate he went down because Villa should have gone down with their ghost goal against Sheffield United, all because the technology didn't work that night.
Yeah, we do agree with that.
Had that technology worked, you wouldn't have been down.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we absolutely love Eddie Howe, and it wasn't Amanda Staveley and Jamie Rubin who wanted him in because they wanted Unai Emery. It was PIF, the Saudis wanted Eddie Howe. And they said, no, Eddie Howe's the one we want. We don't want Emery, we want Eddie Howe. And I think they were pleased when Emery signed that new deal at Villarreal and turned the job down because it meant we could get Eddie Howe in. So PIF obviously have done the homework and thought, yeah, Eddie Howe's the man, because he's a young manager as well. He's only 45, so he's got plenty of time yet to, and like I say, the job he did at Bournemouth, absolutely fantastic. And I don't think he'll ever forget his roots there. I think when he left to go to Burnley, maybe that was the wrong thing he did, and I think he realised that. But I think it's different now. Now he's at Newcastle, because he did turn down the Celtic job as well before he came to us.
He did, yeah. And I think what you said there about international management, you're spot on. And it was echoed when I spoke to Steve Fletcher a while back that Eddie Howe is a hands-on manager. He's a manager that wants to be there at 6 o'clock in the morning. He'll be the last to leave as well. He wants to know exactly what's going on at the club at all times. And I think he's doing a brilliant job at Newcastle. And also, he's loving his time there, which I didn't get from his time at Burnley. It didn't feel like he really was that ingrained into it. He gave it his all, but he seems to love Newcastle.
Oh, yeah, he does. He absolutely loves the area. He loves where, he says the fans are brilliant up here, and we are a great set of fans, by the way.
Yeah, you
and
are.
That's not being biased by any means, but yeah, I mean, he's well loved up here, and he done the job what he was brought in to do. He kept us up in the Premier League. I mean, everybody had us going down. All these pundits had us going down. I mean, when you haven't won a game for 14 games, and you think, yeah, well, how are they going to get a win and get out of this, And we got that win against Burnley, and we had that horrendous December. But after the new year, we just turned it around. And to bring players like Bruno in, who actually didn't have any clauses in his contracts, so had we gone down to Championship, he would have been playing Championship football this season. So, that, and for that guy to leave a team like Lyon, who are in European competition, to come to a team in the bottom three of the Premier League, obviously he's took some guts to do that, and it just shows you how committed he actually is. Kieran Trippier, I mean, fantastic signing for the price, a natural leader as well, and a fantastic player. And then we brought in the likes of Dan Burn, Chris Wood. Chris Wood came in for a job to do, and he done the job pretty well and kept us up while Wilson was out injured. But Dan Burn, he's been steady as well. And then in the summer, we brought Nick Pope for 10 million. Some people were like, yeah, but Nick Pope's not that great. He's absolutely fantastic. Yes, he had that wobble for England where he let that goal in the third, but
yeah.
And people were slating him. But then I said, what you've got to remember is Nick Pope, in front of him, he's got a strong defence at Newcastle. Where it's England, he's got the likes of Maguire and Stones and that in front of him. And he's probably wobbling, thinking, oh, God, I'm not, these defenders are making me nervous. So your goalkeeper's only as good as what your defence is. And we brought Sven Botman in for 35 million euros. What a steal that is. He's an absolute Rolls Royce of a defender. He can ping a ball anywhere on the park. I'm surprised he didn't get picked for Holland for the World Cup, but I'm pleased he didn't. And that guy is absolutely fantastic. And I think a lot of Premier League clubs must be thinking, a lot of the big six must be looking now and thinking, why didn't we look at Botman?
I think, his business in the transfer window has been fantastic. And been having a look at the form actually just before the World Cup started, and to be honest, he was on a fantastic run. You'd won 5 out of 5 in the Premier League just before the World Cup. I'm sure it probably come at the worst possible time, didn't it, for you?
It did in a way, but Botman got injured in that game against Chelsea as well, so we were kind of thinking, well, actually it's at the right time because it gets the players' fitnesses back as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not only the players that came into the club, but it's what he's done with players who were there. I mean, Joe Linton, Mike Ashley wanted him in as a £40 million striker because he thought, well, if he comes in, bangs in 20 or 30 goals in a season, Man City might come knocking for 80 million quid and I'll double my money and get rid.
Yeah.
But Joe Linton's never been a striker. So Eddie Howe's turned him into a midfielder and he's been fantastic since he's done that. Miguel Almiron, under Rafa, played on the left and he was devastating on the left. But Steve Bruce hardly played him and then just played him anywhere on the pitch. Eddie Howe's turned him into an inverted winger. And what a season he's having for us this season. He's absolutely on fire. 8 goals, from 15 games. Absolutely fantastic from him. Fantastic return. And then also what he's done, he's got Sean Longstaff coming back to his form that he showed under Rafa Benitez, because he's lost 2 years of his footballing career under Steve Bruce, like a lot of players did.
Yeah. And with regards to the Newcastle team tomorrow, will Botman be back for this game, or will it be a little bit longer before he's back into full?
No, Botman played on Saturday. He played against Rayo Vallecano and had a great game against them. Again, he was pinging the ball everywhere on the park, so he's fit anyway, Botman.
Yeah.
I think it was just like a little ankle knock, so maybe a couple of weeks it took him to get him back. But yeah, he's been playing. He played in Saudi Arabia when played Al Hilal. Let's not forget, they're not a bad side, Al Hilal. They've got some decent players in that team, including Garlo, who played for Watford and Man United. And we beat them 5-0. And Almiron got 2 and Joe Linton got 2. And then youngster Dylan Stevenson scored 1 for us as well. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what team he puts out tomorrow night. It may be Loris Karius plays in goal tomorrow night. Now, he played against Al Hilal and he kept us in that game in the first half with a couple of fantastic saves.
Yeah.
So Eddie Howe's probably working his magic on him as well, because he's one of these goalkeepers lost a lot of confidence. And a lot of people were like, well, why have you signed him on a free? But Darlow was out injured. And I think we're now going to sign him on longer and keep him for the rest of the season. So that looks good. So he may well play, he may not. It may be Pope who plays tomorrow. I don't know. We won't know until Eddie Howe puts that team sheet out at 7:15 tomorrow night.
And that is one thing that you've mentioned there as well, about Karius, about Joe Linton. And to be honest, Joe Linton was a player for me that was just so disappointing when I saw him play under Bruce. And he's just got a second wind under Eddie Howe. And that's what Eddie did with the likes of Steve Cook, Simon Francis, Charlie Daniels, Mark Pugh. These players were players that were playing in the lower leagues, and he turned them into Premier League players who were playing week in, week out and performing really, really well. And, he's a fantastic manager, and long may it continue. One big question, of course, we have just recently been taken over ourselves by American businessman Bill Foley. And one thing that I have seen a lot of Newcastle fans frustrated about is how they do feel a little bit, I'm trying to think of the word, but held to ransom in the transfer market by other teams, because clubs know how much money Newcastle have got. And Newcastle are the richest club in the league at the moment, I believe. Without looking at all the figures, I believe richer than Man City. Okay, Man City have been there a bit longer, of course, more established team at the top. But could the same happen to us, really, in that sense? Is that justified?
I mean, it could do. I mean, it depends. I don't, for a start, I don't know what net worth Bill Foley's worth, by the way. But whatever he's worth, if you start going for players, they may well hold you to ransom, but it just all depends. But then what I am pleased about is you actually give Gary O'Neill the job full time, because he had done well considering what Scott Parker had done. And after that 9-0 defeat, and then he come out and slated about the transfers and everything, I think it was great that you actually sacked him on that Monday morning, because if you're going to go out there and slate people, then don't do it on TV. But so for him to lose his job, and then Gary O'Neill to come into there and actually pick those players up from losing 9-0 against Liverpool as well. I mean, he's done a terrific job for us, and fully deserved to get the job. I mean, if they had have brought another manager in and either demoted him down the backroom staff or got rid of him, that would have been very unfair on him, I would have thought, because then you're not giving this guy the fair crack of the whip. And I think he stabilised you where you're at, and I do think he'll stay up this season. I think Forest will get out of it as well, if I'm honest. I think the team that will be in most danger of dropping this season will be Everton.
Yeah, Yeah, Everton were very, very, very poor in the two games that we played, and of course, one was an earlier round of this competition as well. So, yeah, I can't disagree with that. I think Everton are in dire straits after watching them at Dean Court twice in a row. They were appalling. I always put people on the spot with regards to these preview shows. But how do you think it will go, Tony? Do you think it's going to be a cagey match? Of course, we drew 1-1 earlier in the season up at St James's Park, or do you think Eddie at that point probably didn't have the formula this spot on this season, but has got it to a point now where you're on a roll and he'll just pick up from just before the World Cup?
I mean, that game we played back in September against Bournemouth, we were quite poor in that game, if I'm honest.
Mm-hmm.
And I did say on a preview show that one player we'll have to watch and not give space to is Philip Billing.
Yeah.
And what happened? He got the space and he scored. And that was my comment justified straight away, because he's one player to watch.
Mm-hmm.
But that game we got away with it, getting a penalty, thankfully, and getting a draw out of it. I think it'll be a totally different game tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I think Eddie will want the players at their best tomorrow. And the thing is, what we do is we play this pressing and intensity game, and it catches a lot of teams out. I mean, Tottenham couldn't deal with us.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't like it the way we were pressing them. And also, if you watch when Wilson come on at the World Cup, the couple of times he did get on as a sub,
Yeah.
as soon as he came on, he was in Eddie Howe mode. Oh, I've got to press. And when he was pressing the opposition, they were panicking because they didn't know what to do. They were like, oh, hang on, what do we do here? So, it's instilled into the players' brains and everything that they've got to do this pressing. But, I mean, the football we playing under Eddie Howe is brilliant. I mean, I do actually think we will win tomorrow, and I think we'll do it in 90 minutes. My prediction's 2-0 us, by the way.
I think this sort of game, I think we can probably get a draw over the 90 minutes. I think this could go to penalties. And I think it's only because of the Eddie Howe Bournemouth connection. Because our players will know how Eddie likes to play, will be ready for it. I think Newcastle will be definitely on top. We'll have to defend well, but I think as well as that, the takeover, and of course Bill Foley has said there's hopefully going to be 4 to 5 players coming in during that January transfer window. This is the point now where the players, I think we'll play a full strength team because I think they'll want to gel after this break, and also ready for that Chelsea game as well. So I think we will play a full strength team. I don't think we'll rest anybody, but those players won't want to lose their shirt when Bill Foley starts spending that money. They'll think, for example, Adam Smith, he is the oldest player, that we have on the pitch normally. And what he'll want to do is make sure he keeps that shirt because he knows that his shirt is probably going to be one that Bill is going to look at to get a young player on. So that's why I reckon it's probably going to be a draw in full time, and it will probably go to penalties because of that sole reason, for the Eddie effect, and of course players not wanting to lose their shirt. Of course, it'd be rude not to ask about them. Callum Wilson, outstanding player. We absolutely love him down here. How long do you think he can go on for?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, he missed 2 years, didn't he, of his footballing career through ACLs? But I mean, has he got another year or two in him? I think maybe. It depends how much he stays fit. If we can keep him fit, I mean, I've always said a fit Callum Wilson will score at least 20. A fit Callum Wilson all season will get you at least 20 goals in the Premier League.
Yeah, agree.
But the problem he has is when he gets let down by injuries. That's the only thing. Um, so it's whether we can keep him fit. I mean, we're looking at like Marcus Thuram.
Mhm,
He's currently at Mönchengladbach, but he's out of contract at the end of the season. But
mhm.
I think we're going to go in and test him with a £10 million bid maybe in January to say, look, we'll take him. He can play left wing and up front. Um, but maybe that'll give a bit of help for Callum Wilson where we can rest him and play Thuram or play Isak when he's back fit as well because he's still out at the moment.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, but I would say he's probably got a year or two left in him, I think, Callum Wilson. I wouldn't thought much more than 2 years, if I'm honest.
It sounds crazy saying that after, of course, he's been to the World Cup and come back and, played the minutes he did. I wouldn't have been surprised if Gareth Southgate didn't play him. But he rotated that squad. Of course, he got lots more minutes than Madison actually did.
Yeah.
So he's a talented player, but I think injuries will catch up with him in the end, and that's such a shame because he's a lovely guy and so down to earth. Of course, there's two other Bournemouth players at Newcastle. In Matt Ritchie. I'm guessing Matt's probably going to be out the door. I was hoping we'd actually bring him in, but
Yeah, I mean, Matt Ritchie, cracking servant. He's been a brilliant servant to our club. I mean, we took him 6 years ago when we went down to the Championship. West Ham wanted him as well at the time, but he chose us over West Ham. £12 million. He's more than paid his transfer fee off, in my opinion. Absolutely brilliant player. Gives 110% on that pitch. A leader on that pitch, a leader in the dressing room as well.
mhm,
Um, Never let you down. I think his legs are going now, if I'm honest.
mhm.
Um, I always thought maybe we might keep him and then he'll come on the coaching staff with Eddie Howe. But then there's talk of him maybe going in January. Everton want him, apparently so. So we shall see on that one. And obviously we've got Ryan Fraser as well,
Yeah, we were.
which to be which to be fair, he hasn't really set the world alight. And we know the problems he caused at Bournemouth. I mean, he
Yeah,
wouldn't sign that 6 week contract, which was absolutely ridiculous.
yeah.
Um, and to be honest, he's another player we need to move on. I would rather move him on over Ritchie, if I'm honest. I just, to me, he reminds me of Michael Owen was at Newcastle. He plays his heart out for Scotland, like Owen played for England. But when he plays for Newcastle, he's not interested. I mean, I watched that Scotland game against Ukraine. As soon as he come off the bench, he set 2 goals up from two from corners for Lyndon Dykes, and it was like, well, hang on, if you can do that for Scotland, why can't you do that for us? And it's so if we can get somebody to take Ryan Fraser off our hands, I'll be gladly see him out the door.
There has been some horrible rumours that have been circulating on Twitter that Ryan Fraser might be coming back here. I don't want him. Based on it sounds like now he's not just let Eddie down once, and Eddie, remember, created Ryan Fraser. He modelled him into the player that he was and is today, and he's let him down by not signing that contract extension, and it sounds like he's letting him down at Newcastle as well.
Yeah, he just does not. He had some good games last season for us, but apart from that, he's really not done an awful lot. And
Mhm.
to be fair, I mean, yeah, he did set up the one for Dylan Stevenson in the friendly last week against Al Hilal, but other than that, he's not really cut it for me. And to be honest with you, if he went out the door, I wouldn't be sad to see him go. That's for sure. But I just hope you don't end up with him back at Bournemouth.
Well, I'm the same here. To be honest, I don't think it would go down very well. Although saying that, some fans probably have quite short memories as well, so they might, after a couple of good performances, might start warming back to him. But yeah, it wouldn't be if I'd rather we go elsewhere. Let's just say that.
Yeah, absolutely. Send him back to Scotland, and then he might look like a world beater in the Scottish Premier League, because anybody can look a world beater in that league, can't they?
Well, exactly. That's why Eddie didn't go there, I'm sure, because there is two teams in that league, and it's ridiculous, isn't it? Just between the two of them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's yeah, anybody can go in that league and look a world beater, can't they? So, I mean, Aribo went to Rangers, and he went from Charlton Athletic, and he looked an absolute world beater up there, didn't he? So, yeah,
Yeah.
just shows you the standard of football up there. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, if if Ryan Fraser ever watches this video, and actually, to be honest, he could probably pick quite a few videos on this channel. I don't think he'd be offering his services for an interview, to be fair, but hey ho, it's one of
No,
those.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
well, thank you so much, Tony, for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure to speak to you. And
Yeah.
before you go, do tell us a little bit more about where we can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me on, it's all black and white TV, as you can see on the board behind me. My channel's been going since October, so I've been going for 2 months now. I've got 178 subscribers at current. If I got to 200 by the end of the year, it'd be absolutely fantastic, because that would be a heck of an achievement. But do check out my content. I've got some really good stuff on there. I had a local lad on last week who's a singer up there called Junior Turner. Absolutely fantastic guy. He's been through a lot in his life as well. He's lucky to even tell his story. So if you haven't checked that out, go and check that out, because it's really, really worth having a watch. It's a good watch. But yeah, that's my channel. It's all black and white TV, and you can find it on YouTube, and you can find me on Twitter at TonyTooney31 as well. Thank you very much, Craig.
No problem at all. And the link is just below in the description. So please go watch Tony and give him a subscription as well. But yeah, like I say, mate, thank you so much for coming on. And I'm sure we'll catch up later on in the season as well.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Yeah, yeah. When we caught the return leg, yeah, absolutely. We'll do it all again if you want to. That's fine by me. No problem, Craig.
Looking forward to it, mate. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. And have we
Cheers,
the
mate.
lads tomorrow?
Cheers, mate. Take care.
Thanks. Bye bye.
And thank you, everybody, for joining us on this show. Please remember to hit the like, the subscribe, the bell button below to be alerted to any new videos we do here at the Cherries and All Departments. Also, do remember to watch our interviews. We had Mark McAdam on. We've also had Trevor Watkins a little while back, Eddie Mitchell. We had Steve Fletcher, Steve Cook, Charlie Daniels, James Hayter, Harry Redknapp, of course, and lots more. So do remember to hit that like, that subscribe, that bell button, be alerted, and leave us lots of comments as well. It's always nice. But until the next video, up the cherries, and we'll see you then. Thank you for joining us.